Good evening, I'm David Ferris and welcome to this week's edition of the Chamber Buzz. Our special guest tonight is Will Earp, and Will owns and operates Carolina Lead Abatement. The Weekly Buzz is proudly presented by Roger G. Taylor and Associates, and let's look around the area and see what's going on this week.
Good morning, everyone. This is Teresa Pinto, President for the Rocky Mount Area Chamber of Commerce, and absolutely thrilled to be out here this morning on Sunset Avenue with Moorfield Real Estate, our July Small Business of the Month winner. This has been, I think, a long time in coming. As I read the press release on Ken and his business and all of his team members here. Great to see you all this morning. I think I was most impressed by, number one, your longevity in the business, that you understand reinvestment and the ebb and flow of business. But most of all for me, it was that he's been married for 53 years, something I have not even come close to achieving. That was impressive to me. And second of all, that you understand mentoring and continuing that reinvestment, not just in the business, but in people. And carrying on, you've had wonderful mentors in your life. Tom Betts is an example of one. And that you're passing that, paying it forward almost, as in continuing to mentor the people that are on your team, other business professionals. I think that says a lot about the type of business person you are. And like I said, I think it's been a long time in coming to recognize you for that. It's been many, many years of reinvestment in this community and in the small businesses here. So I want to thank you for that and congratulations.
Full career, wonderful people here in Rocky Mount. The people that I've been fortunate enough to work with in our industry are the best. And you could not ever live in a nicer place than Rocky Mount. So being able to be in business here 40 years this year, and it's been a joy.
Welcome back. Will, tell us a little history about the Carolina Lead Abatement.
Well, we got started, we were licensed general contractors. We went into doing small remodeling construction, started out small, then got bigger into larger projects, and that's when the lead abatement came into play. They started really pushing lead-safe work habits, started making sure everything was done in a safe manner, especially for child-occupied houses. And then the government started pushing more for actually having lead abatement. And it's a license and certification. You have to go through a week-long class for that. We got our company licensed, and we transitioned more from the construction and remodeling into the lead work. Then that moved on. The lead experience qualified us for asbestos removal, so we now do asbestos removal. We've been doing that for a couple of years. And
did my daughter's house.
Sure did. So we've done many projects here in Rocky Mount. It's a statewide pretty much business. It's not really a local market. There's not enough business around here to support a company just in Rocky Mount. So we travel a long ways to do a lot of work.
Do you have what you might consider a principal footprint area that maybe you do 75% of your work in?
The majority of my work would be from High Point to the beach.
Gosh,
I do stretch out.
That's a Shaquille O'Neal footprint.
Yes, it is. If I only drive an hour to work every day, I'm good.
Wow.
So
when you did my daughters, you were in your backyard.
I didn't know what to do. That was very nice to work close. And that's what we'd love to do. There is more work here in Rocky Mount. Yeah. I'd love to get as much as possible just to try and keep our business local as much as we can. But no, we do travel. I just gave an estimate in Canton, North Carolina, right there at the line on the western side this past week. So we travel where the work is. We do some work in South Carolina and Virginia also.
Is it mostly residential, or is it commercial, or pretty much a blend?
My bigger jobs are all commercial. We do some large commercial industrial jobs. The majority of the work does come in as the small jobs because we are a smaller company.
Right.
We're not like some of the larger demolition companies that have crews that do the big multi-million-dollar jobs. Our bread and butter seems to be the small individual that's got a kitchen floor that needs to come up that's asbestos, or the boiler pipes under their house, small mold job in their basement. They've got mold in their house. We do mold work also. And most of the lead work would be child-occupied houses in the government-funded projects, CDBG block grants,
Right.
things like that.
What the age of homes that you see most of those concerns, really all of them except maybe mold, but the lead issue and the asbestos issue.
The lead, they stopped using lead in 1978. So any house before then, it's a good chance that it does have lead, and even on after it, because just like now, if you buy some paint, you may put it in the garage and do it. We have lead abated houses that were in the past 10 years, because a lot of people don't know when you go buy cheap mini blinds, they're full of lead, especially the products that come from overseas. And we have gone in houses that have had a child tested positive for lead poisoning, that the mini blinds were all we found, and it was a newer house.
What do they do? Just kind of teeth on them, or?
Well, mini blinds, if you look, there's always dust around the window
Right.
sill and all that. They deteriorate. It's a cheaper plastic. It dry rots. It does just like anything else. And when it deteriorates, it turns into a lead dust.
Well, I would have never thought.
A lot
I
of
guess I'm
people
more
don't-
inclined to think of paint and
Right,
things
but
like
there's
that.
so many more items, and that's where a lot of your vinyls, plastics, things like that, of your older ones do have lead. A lot of stemware, glassware has it. So there's a lot of items that people don't realize that do pose a danger if they don't treat it the right way.
I wouldn't have thought glassware would have been.
Oh, a lot of your nice decanters that you see people in
Yeah.
bars or
Yeah.
that they store their alcohol and things like that in, that's leaded glass. And so
Well, it sure is.
the longer you keep it in it, the longer you have a chance of that lead leaching into it.
I would have never. So we need to drink it quicker, or just
Hey, whatever works
Whatever.
for you, yeah. But no, the long-term storage of it can cause a problem like that.
when you go in, what do you typically look for? If I called you and said I want you to come in my house and look around and see if there's anything that needs to be.
First of all,
Cleaned up.
we use industrial hygienists. I do what I do. I'm good at the removal. I try and specialize in my part. I hire somebody else that specializes just in the testing, or that that has the background of the science to know what to come in, what to test. I know what items in a house have a good possibility of being lead, being asbestos, but it really the only way to know is to test it. And so they'll come in for lead. They have a miniature X-ray machine, and they'll walk up to the wall, point that up to it, pull the trigger, and it tells you exactly how much lead is in that paint instantly. And so they'll come in and do the testing, and then when I come in, there's a report already that'll tell you, all right, this item, and this item are lead. So I already know when I come in. I can't look at a door or look at a piece of trim and say it's lead paint on it. I know the signs, but there's no way to test it by your eye without really.
Well, homes that have been painted, the walls have been painted multiple times. So this goes through. The X-ray obviously goes through, sees it, and then you just take it down to the original surface, or.
We do, the most popular thing now is component removal, because the safest way to ensure you're not going to have a future problem is just to completely remove it. On historical houses, like some of them like downtown and areas that we want to save the architecture behind it, we can do chemical stripping or physical removal of it. Most of the time we do what we call encapsulation, because as long as it's sealed and intact, it's perfectly safe.
Right.
So we will encapsulate it. If it's not, like on doors and everything, we treat the impact areas. We'll sand around the edge of the door, scrape around the edge of the door, leave the majority of the paint, but the areas that hit, we'll address that. So there are different ways to do it, but the best way is just complete removal. Anything that's going to have any kind of friction, it's best to get it out.
Do insurance companies cover any part of that?
Nothing in lead or mold unless it's part of another claim. If they've had a flood loss or fire or
Right.
something like that, and the workers have to come in and address it,
That's
then
just
they
part
will.
of that's
But-
just part of the rehab.
Right, but just by having lead or asbestos or whatever in your house, no, they will not normally.
Insulation in the older homes, is that an issue when you go in, or?
It can be. like I said, it's just all the nature of what it is. Your insulation and things most of the time are in your unconditioned spaces, sealed off from the rest of the house, so it's not as big of a problem until you go to disturb it.
Right.
So once the disturbing part is there, sometimes it's best to just leave it alone, but if you have to remove it, that's when it should.
If it's in between the walls or something like that with older insulation, say from the 50s or 60s, unless there's demolition involved, you just kind of.
But for instance, like you spoke, I did your daughter's house. They had the boiler pipe insulation under the house.
Right.
As long as it's intact, it's safe. But the heat and air contractors or someone else that might want to work under the house that are bumping into it, we're actually releasing the fibers, and that's when it becomes a problem. There's a lot of people that kind of turn a blind eye to it, and they don't realize the liability they're putting on themselves, because once you bump it, once you disturb it, it's yours. You're the one that have caused the problem. So people are now starting to address those issues. People have been more educated about what they're working with, and are starting to address it more now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Will. When we come back, we'll continue on that conversation, but we're going to take a short break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Will, when you're working on the buildings or homes, you're underneath, you're inside, you're outside, certainly you have to have some kind of protective gear, I would think, other than just eyes and mouth. What different things for different jobs? Or
well, everything we do, we treat.
How do you protect yourself, I
Right.
guess is what I'm asking.
It's a hazardous material. We follow the same procedure that you see other hazmat workers do. We wear full Tyvek suits. We wear the full respirator masks. Sometimes we have to use the cartridges. We use different chemicals. So a lot of times it's not just what we're removing. We have to protect ourselves from the methods that we're doing it also. But no, we wear full respirator suits. We do complete containments on the jobs that we work in. If it's what we call a friable job, if it can be released into the air, we have to seal off everything in the house. Asbestos is a very dangerous product, and the problem with it is it has a 30-year period.
When you say 30-year period.
So if I'm exposed to asbestos now, I'm not going to get sick tomorrow. But it's 30 years down the road, and it's cumulative. The more that you have, the more danger you have from getting lung cancer, mesothelioma, or anything like that goes along with sicknesses that go with it. So you have to take precaution, because it's very easy to say, I'm not going to get sick from this today or tomorrow, so you forget about it. But we're very, very precautious. We set showers up on site. After I get finished with the job, I come out, I go through a room where I take everything off, I step into a shower, I clean off, and then we get dressed coming out. So we take it very, very serious, because we don't want to harm the homeowners or the businesses we're working in, and we also have to look and take care of ourselves.
What do you do with, and I know this may sound like a trivial question, but the outfits, I guess, just to put it in terms that our audience can maybe visualize, sort of like an astronaut's outfit.
Oh yeah,
I guess.
definitely.
You've taken it off, you finished working for today, your crew has. You take it off, you take the shower. What do you do, or do you reuse those, or do you
no, they're one-time use. Once you take it off, it all goes sealed in a trash bag. We double bag everything we do. Everything we do is redundant. When I put up one barrier, there's another barrier to protect that one. Same thing with our trash. We put everything in a trash bag, and then we seal it in another trash bag, and then we seal it all up inside our container when we take it to the landfill.
Are there specific landfills that are different than?
Nash County Landfill takes most of our stuff. When we get there, there's already a hole dug. We don't just throw it out on the ground like everybody else and they cover it up. We have to get an appointment. We take it there. There's a hole already prepared, and they cover it up immediately.
This does sound like NASA.
Yeah.
You know, when they would go out in space early on and come back, and especially the first moonwalks. And
well, I've never been compared to an astronaut, but
well, you know, when they
oh yeah
to get out,
it's very
because
redundant.
they didn't know at the time what, if anything, they could be bringing back to
exactly.
Earth.
And that's the same thing. We have to not only worry about what we're doing, I worry about what I'm bringing home to my children and my family. So we're very,
See, that's
very
a
careful.
NASA comparison.
Exactly. So, but we do. We're very careful on everything that we do.
We have in our area since Floyd back in '99. We had Irene 3 years ago, and this year has been an unusually wet year for us. Mm-hmm. And in the summertime, the humidity kicks up, we get the rain, the mold, mm-hmm. and you do mold removal. Do you find much of that under homes, or is it in houses? Is it in duct work?
It's a lot more than people realize. I get a lot of calls to where people say, I'm having asthma symptoms, my doctor doesn't know what's wrong with me. They're having flu-like symptoms over and over and over again. No reason why, and then we come in and test the house, and the mold spore readings are very, very high. We take air samples, then again hire an industrial hygienist, he comes in and tests it. And they'll tell us exactly what's in the air. It treats everyone different. You may not have a problem, what affects me. To do mold work, I'm actually very sensitive. I can go in a house and my eyes will start itching, they'll feel pressure. So it affects everybody different, and that's why it's actually not regulated in North Carolina. There's no license required. I did go to Virginia to get training so that I could have some kind of certification. But there's more than people realize. A lot of ductwork has holes in it, and people don't know. And when the air is passing through it, it's pulling the air from the crawl space into the house. Mm-hmm. And so, we do address that for people. It's a larger problem than they realize, but we treat it the same way we do our asbestos and everything, because it can be harmful to the people in the house. We follow the same procedures, same suits, same sealing, but we address it like that so that, we're trying to make it safer for them.
Well, again, with all the humidity that we seem to have under normal circumstances, and we certainly have had our share of it this year in particular, I would think that would be something people would want to maybe pay a little bit closer attention with an examination under their homes, mm-hmm. or in their homes or their offices, maybe have it checked, someone come in and...
This is one thing you talked about insurance before. Insurance companies are very big on roof leaks, bathroom leaks, hot water leaks. Those are primary. Most of our mold that we address is actually caused from a problem that's happened.
Right. And
people didn't address it. Mold will start growing after 48 hours of being wet. A lot of people don't really, they think it'll dry out on its own, won't be a problem, when actually that's when things really start growing. So most of the stuff we address have been negligence, where it wasn't taken care of like it was supposed to, or an accident, or they just didn't know they had a leak.
When you're removing mold, obviously you'd have to do it differently if it was attached to the structure versus the ductwork. Is that something you scrape off, you spray, you treat? There's
different methods, but you actually have to, you can't just clean it and leave it. We actually have to scrub it off, scrape it off. Physical removal, they do dry ice blasting. So it's just like you're sandblasting it, but using dry ice. You can sand it off. So once in your porous surfaces, like you're talking about your structural members that you can't remove, you do have to go down into the wood and get it out. Items like drywall, things like that, it's best to just remove it, because once it gets in, it's in, and you're just treating the top of it.
Right.
So, but
yeah, I remember during the floods that we've had the last couple of years, last 10, 12 years, off and on, the first thing would be the sheetrock a few feet above where mm-hmm. Maybe the watermark was, or where it got wet because of the mold.
Anywhere it's got wet that can be dark, damp, and not get any air to it, it's a big hazard for mold getting to it.
Well, your crew, we talked about it at the beginning, that you don't consider yourself a large company. Mm-hmm. You sure are into a lot of things.
Well, we do a lot of work, and with the nature of what we do is we're busy for 2 weeks, and then we're slow for a couple weeks. So we have a small core group that I use. I have 3 local guys. I've sent them all to school, got them all trained, licensed. But we do pull in a lot of temp labor, because you don't want to hire somebody and then send them home. So those guys can move around. A lot of the environmental companies, we all use the same people.
That's smart.
So, it's easier that way, because, it's more dependable. And so I can keep those 3 guys busy. They help me look at jobs. They do estimating. But yeah, everybody's here local. Well,
as we're wrapping it up, if someone or as people or businesses need your services, how can they reach you?
We do have a website. It's carolinaleadabatement.com, or they can give me a call. My number is 252-883-7735. Be glad to help everyone out. But I have a lot of great information about what we've talked about, not just about my business, but about lead, asbestos, mold, and some of the hazards associated on my website that would help them out if they want to take a look.
I've certainly learned a lot tonight, and I'm sure our viewing audience has. Again, Will, thank you for taking time this evening and stopping by. And I think the service that you provide the business you're in is really a great benefit for our area, and we're, so like so many other entrepreneurs, we're very proud of you and very grateful that you're choosing the Twin County area and Rocky Mount as your home. It's your home base, more importantly. But thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope you all have a good evening.